Hello, class. We are starting at the beginning of understanding the Photoshop application. I've launched Photoshop, and the first thing I want to do is kind of talk about setting up your document properly. So let's go through the menu. So first thing to understand is that there's lots of different ways to start a Photoshop document. You can import a photograph. You can import a piece of video. I can download something from the internet. I can create something from scratch. In each of these circumstances, I can bring that image into Photoshop a number of different ways. What we're going to do right now today is we're going to start from scratch, and then later on we'll look at the parameters for different types of file formats and different types of uses and how to import and export so that your files match the correct parameters for the different types of exportation. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to choose New. And what I want to do is I want to kind of go over this a little bit and kind of make you give you some understanding of what this is for. And the idea is very simple. The first question I'm going to answer when I'm creating a piece of art is, what type of artwork am I creating? Am I creating a photographer's print? Am I creating a print document that's going to be mass produced, like a brochure, a business card, a rack card? Am I creating some sort of an illustration? Am I creating something for web, mobile, film, or video, right? And so when you're tasked with a project, that's the first question that you're going to need to answer. And then based on that, there's certain settings that you'll want to use. So let's take a look at that. Let's start with photo. So what we're talking about here is a photographer's print. And these are standard dimensions for a photographer's print. Okay, so we're talking about, if you're a photographer, you take a picture with a digital camera, and then you want to import it into Photoshop, and you want to make edits. In this case, we're starting from scratch. Lots of times you'll import a photograph and edit from there. So we have some standard dimensions here. 7 by 5 inches, 3 by 2 inches, 6 by 4, 7 by 5, etc. And the idea is very simple, is that when I'm working for a photographer's print, I'm going to measure the document in inches. Okay, it's the number of inches across and up and down, because I'm thinking about the document as it's being printed. Okay, the next part of this puzzle over here is the resolution. The resolution is the number of pixels or dots in the image, and for a high quality print, I need 300 dots per inch. And then we'll go into that formula for discerning how to determine the number of dots per inch later. But anytime I'm printing a document, I need to measure it in inches, and I need the resolution to be 300 dpi. Now, the next part of this puzzle is the color mode. And there's a number of different color modes in printing and in Photoshop. And when I am creating a photographer's print, I actually want to leave it in RGB color. Now, when I'm creating a printed document like a rack card, a business card, something along those lines, I'm actually going to convert that to a CMYK color palette, right? And we'll go through understanding what RGB color means and what CMYK color means later, all right? Then the next is the background contents. And the way, what this has to do with is how Photoshop describes what's happening in the background of your document, right? Let's move to the next category, print. So here what I'm thinking about is a professionally printed piece, like a rack card, a business card, a poster, etc. And once again, if I'm going to print that document, I'm going to measure it in inches. And I'm going to use a resolution of 300 dpi, okay? Sometimes you'll see people say ppi, pixels per inch, or dpi, dots per inch, and we'll get into when is it appropriate to say one or the other. It's not worth quibbling over. The idea is that you want it to match that 300 dpi, okay? Now, when I'm creating a professional document like a rack card or brochure, or business card, what I do is I work in RGB color. And then when I'm done with the document, I convert it to the CMYK color mode. And lots of times when you're creating a print document, you may do the whole design of the document inside of Photoshop, or you may be creating components in Photoshop that you're then going to marry in another application like InDesign or Illustrator. So sometimes you're making little pieces that you're going to move on into these other applications. And then you could also be creating a print document totally inside of Photoshop. So I want to measure the document in inches. I want to have a resolution of 300 dpi. I'm going to start in RGB color, but I'm going to conform it to CMYK when I'm done. And then the background contents for this, you can usually start with a white background contents. Let's go to the next tab, which is art and illustration. And so this is kind of like a catch-all. And what they're doing here is they're trying to help people understand the mechanics of creating some sort of an illustrated type document. So they're measuring, and the first two on the left are measuring it in pixels, but they're also working at 300 dpi. And then over here, they're measuring it in inches, and they're also working at 300 dpi. So if you're creating an illustration, the first thing, once again, what you need to understand is, how am I going to disseminate this? Do I want to print this? Is this going to be a poster? Then I would use the print settings. Is it going to be something that's only going to be viewed on the computer, on screen, or video? Then I'm going to use the dimensions for pixels. I only need 300 dpi if I plan to print that document out. Okay, let's move over to the next category, web. So web, mobile, film and video share a lot in common as far as your document and the design of that document, right? When I'm working for web, mobile, video, I will want to measure the document in pixels, the number of pixels across and up and down, right? And then I will want to work at a different resolution. The resolution for web, on screen, or video is 72 pixels per inch, okay? And then we'll go into why these numbers are later, okay? And then I'm going to work in the RGB color mode, okay? And I can make that background any color I like, okay? As far as background content. So we'll go into the idea of background contents soon. Now, mobile. All of us have a smartphone. You look at your smartphone, that screen, there are graphics on that screen, and those graphics had to be created by someone. That might be you. So here what they're giving you are standard dimensions for different phone sizes, right? And then there's some extra stuff down here in the bottom that you can play with, right? So if I'm creating a document and it's going to go to the phone, they're going to tell me what dimensions the graphics need to be, and then I can create those in Photoshop and make sure that they conform to the correct dimensions, and then give them to the programmer, and the programmer will assign code to them so that when they click the button, it takes them to the next screen, or that when they click, it'll slide, whatever the case may be. Last category here is film and video. So the cool thing about Photoshop is that you can do all kinds of different types of image creation. And so one of the cool things about Photoshop is, no matter whether you want to be a photographer, an illustrator, animator, designer, knowing Photoshop will help with that understanding and the completion of those tasks. So Photoshop is really a good tool to have under your belt. So in this case, we're looking at the idea of creating slides or graphics that are going to go into the film and video realm. So what we're doing is we're looking at the dimensions of your video, which could be standard for today is HD TV, high definition TV, which is 1080p, 1920 by 1080, that's 1,920 pixels across, or 1,080 pixels up and down, and the resolution is 72 pixels per inch. So web, video, on screen, mobile, all of those are going to be measured in pixels, and the resolution is going to be set to 72 pixels per inch. Okay, and if you're not sure what dimensions to use, contact the editor. The editor will know what dimensions your graphics should be for video. Okay, so that is our create screen, and those are some different suggestions for how to start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a unique canvas for this first exercise. I'm just going to type in 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. That's a perfect square. 1, 2, 3 there. And then I'm going to work at 72 pixels per inch. So that means that this document would be be set up for web video on screen, not for print. I'm going to work on RGB color. And then I'm going to come down here for background contents, and I'm going to set that background contents to transparent, because I want you to start understanding the mechanics of transparency in Photoshop right off the bat. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and we'll continue in the next exercise. I'm going to click create, and here's our canvas. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the interface of Photoshop, and then we're going to go through the tools along the side here. And there's certain tools we'll use now and other tools that we'll wait to use later. And we're going to build upon our set of Photoshop understanding. Let's stop with this document. I'll see you on the other side.